All right, OTB Sports is back with another series of in-depth chats with some of the biggest names in Premier League and Irish football history. With behind-the-scenes access, we'll be chatting to some of the legendary names from the biggest clubs and meet the crucial people behind the scenes who make a Premier League club just what it is. It's all in association with Cadbury FC and their club partnerships. You can also check out cadburyfc.com for updates on promotions and giveaways. Cadbury, our official snack partner of Chelsea Football Club, and I am delighted to be joined by a true Chelsea legend. As a player, he scored in helping Chelsea win 2 FA Cup finals among 6 trophies he won in his time as a player at Stamford Bridge, and as manager he led them to an FA Cup and an unforgettable Champions League triumph back in 2012. Roberto Di Matteo is with us. How are you keeping, Roberto?
Good afternoon. Very good, thank you. And you?
I'm very well. It's a very good time to be an Italian, isn't it? Euro 2020, the Eurovision, the Olympics. You stopped celebrating.
It's a very good time to be an Italian. It's been a good summer.
It has been a very, very good summer for the Italians. We're going to talk a lot about your time at Chelsea, but pre-Chelsea, starting off as a footballer and making your debut with Lazio. God, that was an interesting time in Italian football, off the back of Arrigo Sacchi, that great AC Milan side. So many of the world's best players were there at the time. It must have been so exciting as a young player coming in and being a part of that.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be signed by Lazio from Switzerland. I was playing for a Swiss team at the time, and then went to Lazio, and sort of a dream came through for me. And I remember I started from the bench the first game. I came on for Gaza after, I think, 68, 70 minutes. And then started the second game, and that was it. And then I started all the games from then on. It was a good time. It was a very exciting time in the Serie A. Also, especially for Lazio, because a year before, a new owner took over, bought the club, and he was a very wealthy Italian businessman, and he invested heavily into the club. So the club then went, improved year by year and signed some excellent or very good players, which then culminated in winning the league in 2000.
You mentioned you come on for Gaza in your first game, and that's around 1993, so he's already had the first real serious injury. In terms of talent, how much did you know about Gaza before you linked up with Lazio and got to play with him?
Yeah, I knew plenty of him, because obviously I had been watching the FA Cup finals for many years, and also then I started obviously to look up the squad for Lazio and so on, and so I knew him. I knew the kind of player he was, and obviously I was watching Serie A as well, so I knew what a great player was. He had a good time in Rome. Unfortunately, he had a couple of bad injuries, which really didn't allow him to fulfill his potential in Italy. But it was a great pleasure to be with him in the team.
It was a good team to be in a midfielder in as well, where you have like the creative brilliance of a Gaza, and Aaron Winter is there, Kazaragi, Boksic, Signori. There was a lot of attacking talent there as well. If you were creating the chances, they were going to take them.
Well, that meant a lot of running for me, Yes, we were quite an attacking team, especially in the second year that I was there with the manager we had. Basically, wanted everybody to attack, and there weren't many people left behind defending. But yes, Signori, I think he won 3 or 4 years in a row. He won the Golden Boot in Italy. We scored a lot of goals, and there was a lot of offensive talent on the team.
Yeah. How would you describe yourself as a midfielder at that stage, when you talk about, say, the attacking talent and you having to do a lot of the running? What was your role within the team?
Well, I was probably a little bit like they call in England a box-to-box midfield player. I was defending. I was trying to support the attacking midfielders and players. So I did a lot of up and down the pitch. Scored a few goals, not many, but I had probably a lot of assists during my time.
Yeah. The move to Chelsea then, Ruud Gullit is the manager. Did you grow up worshipping Ruud Gullit and say that Dutch team of '88?
Well, Ruud, I knew Ruud personally because over the years I was good friends with Aaron Winton, so we used to sometimes meet up with the other Dutch players in Italy and so on. So I knew Ruud from before, but also we played against each other in the Serie A for many times. So he knew me as a player very well as well. So I guess he was looking for that sort of player when he became player manager at Chelsea, and he knew me as a person, he knew me as a player, and I guess he felt that I would be a good fit for his team.
You mentioned AC Milan. It's very hard to compare teams across different countries and different eras and times. But that Milan team you would have been going up against around 2004 that won the European Cup in such spectacular fashion. When you look at that team compared to, say, the Arsenal side that was emerging under Wenger or the Manchester United side you were competing against, was that AC Milan a step above even that?
Well, there was certainly the force in the Serie A in the early 90s, AC Milan. You know, you had the previous era with Sacchi, and then Capello came in and just continued the form of that team. They were the team to beat. And I remember one of the first games, I think was the fourth or fifth game, that was at Lazio 93. You know, we played the San Siro and I had to fill in at centre back because our centre back, one of our centre backs was suspended. So I had a bit of a nightmares the night before the game because I just couldn't believe it. I was going to have to play at centre back against those players, and during the game I remember that they were coming from all sides, left, right, middle, and we were just trying to hold on, and eventually we actually drew the game. But it was one of those games you didn't know where to look, where they were coming from.
Yeah, that's a bit of a baptism of fire at centre half.
Oh, definitely.
So when Gullit makes the call, because Serie A at the time is still, it seems, the big league. It's still the number one league in Europe. And Chelsea aren't at that stage quite the force of a Manchester United or Arsenal. Was it a straightforward decision to leave Lazio and to go to Chelsea?
Well, I have been 3 years with Lazio, and I was kind of thinking to maybe experience something different. Not that I was desperate to leave, but in my mind I was thinking, maybe it was time after 3 years to maybe do something different. And I think Gullit was it was very important that he was the player manager at Chelsea. I think he persuaded me to make the big move to England. I didn't know much about London at all. I knew about the Premier League, but I didn't know that there was so much investment going into the Premier League, which started in, I think, 92 it was. But he sold me the project very nicely. It was very clever selling me the project, and also Ken Bates at the time, he was the president. They made me feel so important and so good about it. So at the end, it was not a difficult decision. I felt that it was the right decision. That's why I did move to England. And looking back, it was the right call at the time.
Yeah. Gullit took over from Glenn Hoddle when Glenn Hoddle then went to take the England job. This is the summer of Euro 96. And a criticism that was often put out about Hoddle was that maybe he struggled to deal with players of lesser quality than him, and that would often be the best player in training still. Like Ruud Gullit is one of the greatest European players of all time. Him as a manager, and I know being in there as a player manager, was he comfortable dealing with players, not all of whom were as good as he was?
Yeah, absolutely. He just put himself at the level where he was the same with everybody. He didn't make anybody feel less important. He has this personality. He's quite a humble guy, if you know him. He's not like a big star. He's not big-headed at all. He might seem, or he might come across like that, but he's totally the opposite. So I don't think anybody had a problem with that. I don't think he made anybody feel that they weren't good enough. But also we had a very good team environment. The group that we had was a very good group. They made the three foreigners that arrived in '96 made us very welcome, helped us integrate into the club, into the new culture as well. And we tried our best to make it as quick as possible and smooth as possible. But because Ruud knew that, he was a foreigner himself, he kind of knew what kind of problems we might face at the beginning. He was really helpful, and he put a couple of people around us that could help us settle in as quickly as possible. And also he had a vision of how he wanted to play football, and that's why he signed certain types of players.
That settling in period is something we never really talk about a huge amount when players from other countries arrive into England. That difficulty that some have with settling. You had grown up in Switzerland, you'd then gone to Italy, move on to England. Was it straightforward? Was it a comfortable setting for you in London, a big city? You'd been in Rome, but getting to London and suddenly being part of a club like Chelsea, was it straightforward? Did you feel at home straight away?
Personally, it was, yes. I didn't have any issues at all. I mean, I had lived abroad. I mean, I lived in Switzerland, so coming from Italy, it was kind of going abroad again. And I didn't have any issues with the culture. I didn't have any issues settling in. It was kind of also coming from Italy, it was kind of taking my private life back as well, because in Italy, it's a bit more difficult maybe to have a private life when you are a football player. So I really enjoyed being able to just go out and even to go to the supermarket. I really enjoyed going to the supermarket and nobody talking to me about football. So there were certain aspects that was really good. And also, I could see that the club was going in the right direction. They were trying, they were building a new stadium, and it was an exciting time to be part of Chelsea.
That's interesting. You talk about the move from Italy to England and being able to go to the supermarket, because we would think that the interest levels, particularly around '96, where football was front and centre, it was tabloid heaven in a lot of ways, that even still it wasn't comparable to what was there in Italy.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in London, so I'm not sure if you can compare with the other cities in England. I mean, I don't know if in Liverpool or Manchester or Leeds or so on, if it's the same. But in London, there are so many clubs, and people would maybe probably recognize you, but they wouldn't come up to you, or they would just say hi and leave you alone. So that was totally different to Italy.
It's quarter of a century now since you moved to Chelsea. And when we talk about that time of what happened to Chelsea under Hullet and the players he brought in, and yourself, and Vialli and Zola and Leboeuf and Arsene Wenger arriving in at a similar time at Arsenal, and the French influx there, it was seen that it was this culture shift for English football, that maybe the Spice Boys of Liverpool, that kind of generation, was been a little bit left behind. At the time, did you realise that? Was that part of the remit from Ruud Hullet of, actually, we're coming into a old schoolish English dressing room with the likes of Dennis Wise and Scott Minto and Mark Hughes, and we're going to do things differently. We're going to do things the way we did them in Italy?
I think they had already started with Glenn Hoddle a little bit, because obviously Glenn played abroad as well. So he had the comparison of both worlds. So that started already. And then I think Ruud then took it a little bit further by basically introducing a few new methods, in terms of training sessions, diet as well, and so on. I mean, and we probably brought some of that in as well from Italy, in terms of how to behave, maybe off the football pitch, to have a professional life. I think we certainly brought a little bit to that. But I have to repeat, the boys in Chelsea, that group that we had, they were so good to us. They tried very hard to make us speak English and teach us English, some more than others, because obviously the Scottish boys, you can understand at all when they're trying to teach us some English words. Dennis Wise, forget about it. So we had a few that were talking better English, and they helped us along the way, and we took lessons, and so that was our way to show respect as well, because you need to integrate as quickly as possible into this new culture, and probably the language is one of the most vital points of integrating, because that allows you to communicate.
Would you have seen that then when you went on into management, when you talk about the language and the importance, and you would have a dressing room where you may have 10, 12 different nationalities, and I think, do you speak 5 languages at this stage? That maybe you were better positioned than a lot of managers to deal with that, but actually integrating young men coming to England at 17, 18, 19 who don't have the language, that it is so important for them to get to grips with it.
Yes, that's right. But most people now, or probably in the last 20 years, most people speak English, or at least a little bit of English. So, but what some miss is that they don't want to really accept that they are in a different country and integrate into the social and cultural aspect of the country. And that's probably one of the downfalls of so many players that then just don't make it here, even though in other countries they have had a really good they've had good success and good careers, but then they come over here and fail, because it's so important that you feel good outside the football pitch as well, because at the end of the day you're not going to spend your whole day on the training ground, so you got a lot of time at home with your if you have a family, they need to be okay as well. Otherwise, you can't focus on the football.
What a time that was to be a midfielder in English football when you're going up against Manchester United and Keane and Scholes, or Arsenal with Vieira and Petit. English football, was that a lot more frantic than Serie A? That would have been the perceived wisdom, that there was a bit more of culture in Italian football. It was slower, it was more tactical, and English football was hell for leather in the middle of midfield. Was that your experience of it?
Yeah, and it was very exciting. It was much quicker. The ref, obviously, they let the game flow, and there weren't that many fouls to interrupt the game, and it was really tough as well. And we had some really good encounters with the likes of Roy Keane and Paul Scholes and Patrick Vieira and so on and so on. It was always good fun, We kicked each other a few times, actually many times. But after the game, it was a handshake and it was all forgotten. But I like the pace of the English football and still do, because it's very exciting. There's always something happening, and sometimes you kind of have to slow down a little bit to be able to control the game. But looking at the Premier League from abroad, everybody enjoys the pace of the Premier League, because there's so much action going on. It's never boring.
No, certainly not. Maybe you were well suited as well with that role you've been playing in Lazio, and it seemed like it was quite a high-tempo game that you were expected to play anyways. Did you alter the way you played the game when you came to England in any way?
No, it was Hullet that sort of pushed me a little bit further up the field, because he thought that I might be better suited for the team, playing better a bit up the field, and so that allowed me to have a bit more freedom going forward rather than going backwards, and also playing with Dennis Wise in midfield. He always encouraged me as well to go forward, and that really suited me, and I managed then to score many goals and important goals for the team, and be a vital part of that team.
Which was the more fearsome or worrying side, perhaps? Roy Keane coming at you at full speed, or Patrick Vieira coming at you at full speed?
Not sure. Not sure. No, we had some good fights. There were always the big games against Arsenal at the time, and against United. There were always the big games, the big fights, and tough games. It's probably the same, I would say. Patrick was a bit obviously taller than us and a bit more physical, but with Roy we had some exchanges. But it's all good at the end of the game.
Yeah. You mentioned there, like, your goal scoring record and the big goals you scored. For so long you had that record that everyone knew of being the quickest goal scored in an FA Cup final. Watching back that goal and the way you struck that ball, in that it was drilled, high, dipping. What's your memories of the actual strike and how you hit it? And was that exactly what you were looking to do?
Of course.
Yes.
No, I did really sweet with my laces, so the ball came out really nicely and quite strong, and it dipped behind the goalkeeper, who was probably a couple of yards outside his goal. What I was thinking is that, Mark Hughes was in front of me and he was making a run. I was just thinking, don't give it to Mark Hughes, please. Don't just shoot. Just have a go. Just have a go. Obviously, then, I hit it quite nicely, quite sweet, and it was very nice. It was a good way to start a final.
Yeah. Is that thought process about Mark Hughes, is that literally because it's, 43 seconds into the game and you'll have plenty of opportunities to pass to Mark Hughes, that it's so early, actually, why not take the risk?
No, he was making a run that I thought that he wasn't on. I thought, just shoot to the goal, and I was quite far out, but it was worth a chance, and you never know. And exactly, if you don't try, you don't score. So yeah, that was my thinking more than anything else.
I think is it the exact same technique that Ronaldo has been trying to hit his free kicks with for about the last 15 years? To get that little dip right at the end.
I can't claim that. I can't claim that one.
No, I'm sure he sat down on YouTube for hours watching it.
I cannot, but certainly, the balls now, they're a bit lighter, so they're a bit easier to make them dip and so on.
Yeah, that was first major trophy for Chelsea in 26 years at that stage, which is hard to imagine now considering what they've done over the last 25 years. That record you have of big games, big finals, 2 FA Cup finals, scoring goals, something you're very proud of, I'd imagine. Something you thought about at the time of, actually, I have a process around big games that I make sure I'm in the right mentality to perform my very best in them, or just something that happened?
I was just never scared of big games, never nervous. I just had the right tension for those games, and I always seemed to perform really well in the big games because I was quite confident in my ability. So I always knew that I was going to be able to perform and give my support to the team, and it worked out nicely. Even though I didn't score in a few, but I scored in many, and that was really good for the team. And it was always the team was the objective, as to perform as a team. And if everybody did their job, we would have won the game. And so we were lucky enough to go on, after 96 or 97, after the final, to then go on to win some more trophies, year after year. And that was sort of our objective, to win a trophy every year. And in my time, we only managed 1 year not to win anything. That was in 99, when we were fighting for the Premier League title.
So did you not get nervous before big matches?
No, I just had I had the right tension, but not nervous. No, not at all.
And when you were in a dressing room then, would you have looked around and seen players who actually had those nerves, and listen, maybe they were able to use it in a positive way? Was there anything you could do with your teammates to influence them to ensure that they actually went onto the pitch with that similar sort of attitude?
No, because everybody has their own kind of set of mind before a game, and they do whatever they need that makes them feel comfortable to go into the games. And I can't tell you, but there are some players that do some weird stuff before.
Go on, tell us.
No, I cannot tell you. What goes on in the dressing room stays in the dressing room. Seriously.
For some reason, I'm thinking Dennis Wise must have done something a bit crazy.
Well, no, you'd be surprised.
Oh yeah.
At other players that did some strange stuff.
Your retirement from football then, and the horrendous injury you picked up, for some reason in my head, I always assumed you would sort of come back and saw your playing days the way you would have wanted. Like that injury.
Me too.
Was it, you were 29 at the time?
I just turned 30, yeah.
Just turned 30, yeah.
Months after my birthday, yeah.
It seems you knew pretty quickly that this wasn't just a broken leg, a serious injury that you could recover from in the normal scheme of things, a 6 months absence and you're back, that actually this was going to be something that actually was going to threaten your career.
No, at the time I didn't know that it was going to terminate my career or end my career. I knew it was a serious injury, but I tried very hard to get back and to come back, and I did everything I could with the doctors and the physios. But I think it was probably at some point after 15, 16 months, just a little time before I then officially retired, where, thoughts started creeping into my head that I might actually not be able to play anymore. But I did try. I knew it wasn't a just straightforward fracture. But it's one of those things in life, it was probably meant to be that I had to finish my football career earlier than expected or planned. But, life goes on, and then you try to reinvent yourself and look at what options you have in life and start maybe a new chapter in your life.
Were you able to think about it with that sort of calm thought process at the time, that this is the end of one chapter and the start of another?
It's easy to talk about it now, but I went through a really difficult time. It was very, very tough. Physically, it was tough. I had a lot of operations. Mentally, it was tough. Suffered from depression. But I eventually recovered from everything. And then time helps to heal. And you kind of try very hard to forget about it, what happens in the past. And I'm a person that likes to focus on the future. So that really helped me. And I started over, and I tried to do something different. And then eventually I found my way and in something that I enjoyed and liked. And then what happened?
Unfortunately, it's the sort of thing that does happen. A small minority of players that they find their career ended at that stage. When you found yourself having those mental health issues, were there people you could talk to around the club? Would you still go into the club on a regular basis, or did you find actually you were isolating yourself?
Well, I was doing a lot of obviously rehab and physio, so you're quite isolated, because the team obviously does their training sessions and then goes home, and you're there almost the whole day doing your rehab work with the physio, with the doctor, on your own, with the fitness coach, and so on. So you're isolated from the team. So it's quite difficult. And then if it drags on and so on, and we're talking about 20 years ago, just over 20 years ago. So, people didn't talk that much about mental health issues at the time. It wasn't that recognized or accepted at the time. And I didn't go and see anybody because just I didn't know that I could go and see somebody, or that somebody could actually help me. With the help of my family, my wife, and then I had a baby and my parents and just the immediate family and some friends, I then slowly started to get better, and also physically better and mentally better, and I came out of it. But when I was depressed, I didn't realize that I was in such a deep hole mentally, But looking back afterwards, analyzing what happened to me, like after a year or 15 months, I remember there were a lot of dark days that I experienced, and it was tough. But I came out of it, and I'm really blessed that I had really good people around me,
Yeah.
My family, kids, or my children, my parents, and so on. So my wife, she was very important.
Yeah, because it's tough on those closest to you as well. Like, you talk about your wife and having a young child, and like footballers, they have to be incredibly selfish. Everybody around you, their life almost has to revolve around yours as well, because everything is about you being in peak condition on a Saturday afternoon or a Tuesday, Wednesday night. And suddenly, from probably your entire routine that when you first met of training, matches, to you being sitting around the house all day and being 30, 31 with no idea of what you're going to do for the next 50, 60 years of your life, it's a difficult thing for a family to come to terms with.
It's a big change. It's a huge change in your life, because you go from being a professional football player to suddenly, Monday morning you don't have to get up to go training. So you need to fill those emptiness. I decided to go back to school. I went to back to university because I studied back in Switzerland. So I thought it would do me good to increase or upgrade myself academically. So I did that, and that took a lot of time. You know, I went every day to uni and studied a lot. So that took up a lot of the hours in of the day, and that happened as well to get through months and a year. I think it was a year and a half or so. And the family was so like the family for me was so important. You know, we then got a second child, so I had 2 babies, and that really was a big focus for me.
As you say, it is 20 years ago now, and I think everybody's awareness and understanding of mental health issues has grown massively in the intervening time. In football, do you think attitudes have changed? Do you think a player who's going through that now would have the right support systems in place within a club? Do you think even as a manager and someone who's been in management quite recently, that managers have a very different attitude to players who are suffering from long-term injuries, who aren't in a good place?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think today it's much more respected. If you have mental health issues, you can find a lot of support. Most clubs these days have sports psychologists working for them, so you'll find somebody you can talk to, or somebody can show you in which direction to go if you have any issues. Managers are certainly more equipped with dealing with that as well, and suggesting maybe which person to talk to. So I think we've come a long way in that sense, and it's good that we have improved that sort of environment in football, because yes, we are top athletes. Footballers are top athletes, but first and foremost, we're all men. We're all human beings, and we can have issues even if you have a career.
When you go back to school then and go back to college and educate yourself, is it always with the end goal of getting back into football and educating yourself in a way that will be beneficial as your life progresses and management starts to come on the horizon?
Well, after I retired, I wasn't quite sure what to do. So that's why I went back to uni and I started doing my coaching badges and so on. And I spent a bit of time with my family as well, because when you're playing, you're always busy traveling. You're never at home weekends, and summer holidays are when the season is off and so on. So it was good to be able to enjoy different aspects of life. Be able to maybe have a Christmas with your family in Italy or abroad or Easter or so on. So that was good, but I didn't really know what to do at the time. Yeah. And then suddenly I found what I enjoyed, and I did a bit of media work and a bit of other stuff, a bit of coaching, and then at some point I started to manage, started to coach at MK Dons. It was kind of out of the blue, because I was working at the European Championship in Switzerland for the Swiss television, and I received a call, and I thought, you know what, might be the right time to just try it out, give it a go, see, if I like it, see if I can be successful. And that was the start of my managerial career.
Yeah, and you've spelled at MK Dons, you go on and there's success at West Brom, and you're probably in that managerial cycle where there's success, and very quickly there's a couple of results that don't go well, and you find yourself looking for a job, and Andrew Villas-Boas comes along and is the hottest property in European football. He's the new Jose Mourinho. He gets the Chelsea job, and you go in as assistant manager, and things don't go the way he would have liked. And towards the end of the season, I didn't realise it was quite so late that it was March, where he ends up losing his job and you come in as manager. That dressing room, which you obviously knew at that stage, having been his assistant, but that is an interesting dressing room where you have Cech, Terry, Ashley Cole, a young David Luiz, Lampard, Sen at the latter stage of his career, Drogba, Torres. When results aren't going well and you take over in a dressing room like that, how do you go about the process of turning things around and getting all those type of personalities singing off the same hymn sheet?
Well, obviously there were a few issues in the club, obviously, because the results weren't good and so on. So, we just tried to focus everybody on one objective, and that was the team objective. Everybody had their personal issues, and people, the dressing was probably a little bit divided. But we appealed to the fact that it was sort of the last ship for many of the players that was sailing in the Champions League, and that it was sort of the last opportunity for many of that group to be able to win something important in their careers. There were only, I think, 2 players that had actually won it before, and that was Posigno and Paulo Ferreira, and everybody else had never won it. So we appealed to that, to leave just all the personal issues that they had between each other just outside the dressing room, and just focus until the end of the season to come together as a group, as a team, and all have the same goal as in achieving, qualifying for next year's Champions League, trying to win the Champions League and the FA Cup. So those were the 3 objectives. And it sort of worked, We included everybody in it, everybody, obviously, when a new manager comes in, normally it's like that it's a clean sheet. Everybody has a new chance, and we got everybody involved, and that was it. That's how it worked out.
The impact was pretty instant. Watching back some of the highlights and the matches of that Champions League run over the past few days. So, lost 3-1 to Napoli in the first leg of the last 16, and then there's this momentous 4-1 victory. Like, watching back that game, David Luiz, there's barely been a more divisive player over the last decade in English football as to whether he's this modern, brilliantly talented defender or someone who can be a bit of a head case at times and a bit of a liability. Like, that night, he was as good as you could imagine. Seemed like a real leader in that Chelsea group.
Yeah, he was, but not only him. There were so many leaders on the team. I remember, Michael Essien. I remember putting Michael Essien into the team, and Ivanovic was immense, and it was a good team effort. It was a good team effort, and it was sort of the last hurrah. If we didn't go for a year, then it would have been a really difficult season, but without that objective of the Champions League. And we managed to turn it around, and it was I remember the atmosphere in the stadium, it was electric. It was so electric, it was so exciting, and everybody was jumping up and down during the game, because it was quite a good game as well, because Napoli was a good team as well. And, we went ahead, and then they scored, and we needed to score, one more, and which we did in extra time.
The semi-final against Barcelona is, one of the most memorable Champions League games probably ever seen. In some ways, it feels like there's echoes of Manchester United in '99 and their success, and that they'd Bayern Munich in the final, and they sort of got the job done, where actually the performance was the semi-final in Turin against Juventus, and the performance for Chelsea was that semi-final against Barcelona, the second leg. Find yourself 2-0 down on the night. Gary Cahill's gone off injured. John Terry's been sent off. Literally everything that could go against you does go against you. And somehow you grind that result out. Fernando Torres scores that late winner that sends Gary Neville a little bit crazy in the commentary box.
He could have scored before. It would have been a bit easier for the club.
Yeah, for everybody involved. You talk about bringing the dressing room together, Roberto, when you got the job, and maybe there'd been a divide in the dressing room. Like, you're going up against possibly the greatest club team of all time in that Barcelona side. How big a job as a manager is it to tactically prepare for going up against that Pep Guardiola side?
Well, more than tactical, because tactical, yes, we prepared very well. I think I watched probably 10 games of Barcelona before we played them, and funny enough, it was always the same result. I watched them playing against a team that played with 4 defenders, against a team that played with 5 defenders, 5 different systems, 4-3-3, 5-3-2, high press, middle press, low press, to try and find something that we could work on. But the result was always the same. Barca always won the games. So it was more like playing to our strengths. So what are we good at? What can we do really, really well? And how can we then consequently limit Barcelona? You can't limit them completely, but limit their qualities. And but it was more a mental game, mentally, because you have to prepare your players when you play against Barcelona or a team against Pep Guardiola's team. You play against a Pep Guardiola team, you know that you're not going to see the ball much. So that 3/4 of the time, after 90 minutes, the opposition is going to have the ball. So it's a mental preparation to this game that you're not going to have much to ball. There's a lot of sacrifice you have to do, running for yourself, for the team, for the victory. And so that was more important. And we managed to win the first leg. We managed to win, even though Barca had a few chances. But we did our homework and we did exactly, what we thought that we were going to be able to do. We did it in the first leg, and that gave us a little cushion. And then the second leg is just, you go down 1-0 and all right. Happens in the new camp, and then you get a player sent off, his defender. And you think, we could be in trouble here now. And then they score the second, and you think, oh my God, how are we going to do this now? And then suddenly, out of nothing, Frank Lampard plays an absolute great pass, reverse pass, and Ramirez, I think he was playing right back. By then he was playing right back. Just scores.
What a finish.
Over the goalkeeper. And we go in at halftime and we are 2-1 down, but we are basically in the final. So it changed completely the atmosphere and the dynamics at halftime, because if you go into halftime 2 down, you have to chase the game. But like that, they have to chase the game. So it completely changed the dynamic, what was happening at halftime. So, we just made sure that we knew what we had to do for the second half, and then you just hold on for your dear life. That's all you can do. You hold on for your dear life, because obviously playing against them, 11v10, it's difficult. We saw it, Liverpool against Chelsea. If you defend well, you can, but that Barcelona team, it was full of qualities, and they could just open you up at any time. And obviously Peter Cech, he was in top form, managed to save the penalty. And then, at the end, he scored the goal, and, then it's over. But I was quite calm in the second half. I have to say, me and Steve Holland was next to me. No, we were in the dugout, and I don't know, for some weird reason, we just, in the second half, I felt really calm. I could see the team was set up nicely. I could see they were working together as a group, as a team, and I don't know. I knew they were going to have a chance. Everybody knew that they were going to have a chance. 2, 3, who knows? And then Czech saved the penalty, and they couldn't really penetrate us that much. They had some attempt from outside, some crosses, and some half stuff. But I was really calm. It was really strange. I was looking at the clock, and it was ticking down, and it was like, okay, only 25 minutes. 15 minutes left, and then suddenly, we're in the final.
I was reading an interview with Juan Mata talking about the final and your preparation, and spoke about how you'd done all the tactical work, obviously, for going up against Bayern Munich. But what he remembered most of all was before the game, and the way you were able to connect with the players emotionally and passionately, and had organised a video of, I think, family and friends of the players, wishing them well, and, really soaking up what it meant of the achievement of getting to a Champions League final. That side of it, as a manager, clearly something you spent a lot of time thinking about. Of, yes, we know we can do and watch Bayern Munich 10 times and figure out the way they're going to play, but getting that emotional connection, it seems, was something that was very important to you.
Yeah, I think we had a really strong connection. As I said, at some point the players just realized that if everybody was thinking individually, it wouldn't work. That I'm talking about the beginning when I took over, and they needed to talk as a group. Think about what they could achieve as a group. And well, the video was more, something to release a bit of pressure, just to make them understand that life is bigger than a final, than a game, a football game. It was mothers, there was wives, children of players that we recorded videos of, and a few tears were shed as well, and in the meeting. And I think they realized that it's an important game, but life is much bigger than that. And what I remember is that I could feel how the pressure was released. When they came into the meeting, they didn't know. It was the day before, the night before. They didn't know what it was about the meeting. They thought it was about tactics, about the opposition, so on. And then we played this video. It was thanks to the help to all the staff, because it took a big effort from everybody from the staff to make those videos and to keep it secret as well, or as secret as possible. And it was just when they left the room, you could really feel how relieved they were. There was some, I don't know why, but we could feel that they were relieved. They were just kind of sort of, okay, so the final is important, but it's not the most important aspect in our lives. And that's what I remember a little bit about that meeting.
And what a final it was. Didier Drogba gets the equaliser in injury time. Petr Cech saves the penalty from Arjen Robben in extra time, and then Drogba, with his last kick for the club, wins the Champions League. After a success like that, do you ring Andrew Villas-Boas? Do you talk to him afterwards? Because you'd obviously started this campaign together and he'd been there for quite a bit of it. Is that, I don't know what the process or expectation is when a manager changes hands like that. Did you ever speak to him about that season?
We were always, we were still in contact when he left, because I had a really good relationship with Andrew Villas-Boas, and I always gave him credit. If you look back, I always gave him credit for what he had built to that point, and that part of the success was thanks to what he had done in the 9 months that he was there together. So I always gave him credit, and we still talk sometimes. Yeah, we bumped into each other in Qatar, in Doha, where we were both on pre-season training with different teams as well. So we had a good chat there. But certainly he deserves credit, because obviously up to that point he managed the team, and he left a really good team. There were some issues, yes, but he left a good team behind, and I was just able to then finish something that maybe was the goal at the beginning of the season.
Went through some of the unforgettable moments of the final and the entire route to it. Still, probably the one thing that comes up most often is John Terry, full kit, lifting the trophy. As manager, did you know that was going to happen?
No, there was so much going on. I missed the team picture, because when I came down the stands after we received the cup, some reporters stopped me. At the bottom of the stands or the stairs. So by the time I finished to speak to them, the team had already taken the picture on the pitch. So I missed the picture. So I didn't see everything that was going on. I was told about this afterwards, because everybody was overjoyed with the victory and the win, and there was so much going on. So I only realized or saw many of the celebrations after, or a day or two after.
Yeah. Since then, obviously, you spent a few more months at Chelsea, you'd spent at Schalke, you had some time at Aston Villa. Where are you now in terms of football and management? Is there an itch to get back in? You're still a very young man, still a huge amount to offer to the game. Or have you been a little bit burnt by the whole managerial experience?
No, after Aston Villa, I sort of wanted to take a break, because I was a bit fed up with the whole industry. Not the industry, but sort of, being let go after such a short time, I just didn't find it right. And so I took a bit of time off, and then I quite enjoyed myself, I have to say. Quite enjoyed myself, and I'm a person that has some hobbies outside football, or some interests outside football as well, and so I focus a little bit more on them, and I still know that at some point I will be a manager again. I will be back in football again. As you said, I'm still young, and I do get that itch sometimes. It's not quite strong enough yet, but I know it's gonna come. I also wanted to spend a few years with my kids that were growing into an age where they were going to leave house, going to university or college and so on. So that was important for me as well, because you cannot recover that. Once they're gone, they're gone. And now I'm at a point where all the children are sort of settled in their academic lives or work, and so I wonder what the next 12 months will be, because it's going to be just with no children in the house, and I wonder if I'm going to get that fire back to maybe start something again.
Am I right in saying there's an Irish heritage in the house as well?
You're absolutely correct. Yeah, my wife, she's half Irish.
Ah, very good.
She's got that fire in the belly, the Irish fire.
And did any of the kids decide to become footballers that we could maybe bring on over the great traditions of Irish football?
I have one son, and none of them play football, so nobody's going after daddy's legacy.
They're better off out of it. Roberto, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you, a true Chelsea legend, talking to us in association with Cadbury FC and their club partnerships. You can also check out cadburyfc.com for updates and promotions and giveaways. Cadbury, official snack partner of Chelsea Football Club. Roberto Di Matteo, thank you very much.